Welcome to Waiting on the Trade, a monthly comics book club for people who can't keep up with monthly comics. I'm Matt Ledger.
I'm Patrick Fitzgerald Fluck.
And I'm Catherine Prince.
This month, we're talking about Atomic Robo and Other Strangeness, a set of incredibly fun short stories starring everyone's favorite adventure scientist who's also a robot, Atomic Robo. This book is written by Brian Clevinger, features art by Scott Wegener, Rhonda Pattinson, and Jeff Powell, and was edited by Lee Black. Now, in case you need a refresher. No, I didn't. I never trip over Rhonda. I always see her clearly.
Fair enough.
I think he wanted to say Robert Pattinson.
I tripped over Wegener, actually, because I never know what to do with that E in the middle of it. Wegener?
You said it. You said it right this time, but before you said Wegener, I think it's Wegener.
You think it is?
Is it Wegener?
I don't know. I've never heard it said out loud. Anyway.
Ask him when we post the podcast.
Clevinger and Wegener. The dream team.
So in case you need a refresher, I don't, because I was reading this comic 5 minutes ago before we started. This volume of Atomic Robo includes 4 short main stories, each of which takes place during a whirlwind week in Atomic Robo's life. We got vampires, we got Power Rangers, we got Doctor's Dinosaur, and Undead Edison's up in this thing, and it is full of great fun goodness. Let's talk about it. It'll be great.
Shall we discuss?
45 minutes to get through 2 minutes of intro.
Did you mean to say Doctor's Dinosaur instead of Dr. Dinosaurs?
That's what I was wondering.
No, I flipped it on purpose. I'm a pro. I can ad-lib. Watch. Wegener. Wow,
I'm so impressed.
Thank you. Kat, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You can't pause because then we think your mic is dead.
I was just like, oh, he didn't trip off over the little S that I threw in there.
Yeah, I'm an expert ad-libber. I don't need to read it.
Okay.
It's going to be yes and all night. It's going to be great.
Welcome back to the podcast. It feels like it's been a long time since I saw you.
It's funny, listener. It's funny because she's married to him.
Yeah, and we work from home now. Yeah, we
Yeah.
see each other 16 hours a day, roughly, at this point.
It's a timely joke. It's timely.
Yeah.
All right. Now back.
Haven't killed each other yet.
Was that you knocking on wood right there at the end?
We had a nice bike ride today.
Nice.
It was great.
Get rid of some of those frustrations. I appreciate that.
Fish and chips and beer in the middle of it. It was wonderful.
Oh, nice. Got to recarb up. I understand.
It was a lot, actually. It was really good, but it was a lot.
Well, yes. Welcome, Kat. Welcome.
Thanks.
What
was the question?
How did you decide to choose Atomic Robo for this podcast?
Well, I wanted something fun. I wanted to revisit something I've already read and liked, but enough time has passed that I don't remember every single detail about it. And because my attention is split into numerous different side projects these days, this particular volume of Atomic Robo is nice because all 4 stories can stand alone and you don't have to sit down and read them all in one go.
This is true.
I believe there was also some discussion of which of these 3 choices that I'm waffling between will Pat like, and we settled on this one of the 3 choices around.
What were the other
This
2?
is specially curated. I was thinking of, I always call it Doom Patrol, but it's not the one with the drop bears.
Next Wave.
Yeah, I was thinking of Next Wave, which is really nice because it's a standalone. But Matt didn't want to do that one for some reasons that we don't need to get into.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we just found an interesting comic called Sleepless, which was more of a romance.
Sweet list?
Sleepless.
Sleep. Okay.
Sleepless.
Gotcha.
And I didn't really feel like discussing romance. I thought this one was fun because it was more like action-y. And it's got some pop culture references, what have you.
Yeah, no, I think you chose well.
Pat's oh my God, I'm going to do it. Oh my God, I did it.
You called her Pat?
Yeah.
The Triad unites.
The circle is complete.
I screwed it. Kat's a really big Power Rangers fan, so she really likes that story.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, I saw my first Zorgon montage a couple years ago. What is that thing called they make?
Megazord. That was like
Yeah.
the most blissful 5 minutes of my life when you like actually were super into Megazords, and then you realize they just repeat the same sequence every episode, and you were
Yeah,
off.
like literally by the end of the episode, I was like, okay, I'm done with this.
That's its charm, Kat. That's its charm.
It was a good 5 minutes, though.
It was a really blissful 5 minutes.
Blissful. Floating head, right?
Yeah, Zordon's a floating head.
Okay.
Wait, so they make a Zord and there's a Zordon?
Yeah.
What does Zord mean in that language?
Bald.
They make a bald.
Hairless. I mean, all the robots are hairless, so maybe.
Yeah. So how did you originally find Atomic Robo way back in the day?
Well, the entire beach scene from the Dr. Dinosaur story was actually my very first ever free comic book day acquisition back in 2009, I believe.
Oh gosh, that would be your first ever free comic book day.
Yeah, it was. And it was like, it was the mother lode. It had everything. So tongue-in-cheek critique of the way dinosaurs are misrepresented in popular culture, a charming anti-hero, being the dinosaur, again, science things, gunfights, palm trees. Yeah, it was a quality free comic book day that year.
I just realized 2 of the books you've chosen at this point are free comic book days books for you because we
it's a shtick that works. I feel like a lot of the things I end up really liking, I find for free at one point.
Yeah, look at Matt.
Hey-o. He's so cheap. Yeah, that was that was a really great free comic book day because it was when we were in Australia. So we took the train into Perth, and I think we went to both comic shops there, though I may be misremembering that. But like between I think 4 or 5 of us went. Like we came back with a pretty big chunk of comics and just like traded them around and like left them in the living room at the flat we were staying in the student village.
And of all those, this is actually the only one I remember.
Yeah, I think well, there's some Batman comics. You wouldn't care about those. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what else we got for free comic book day there. And like, yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, that's the thing with me. I'm not really big into superhero comics, so I almost never would choose one unless it was a sort of like a critique of superhero comics like The Boys or something.
I don't think have you read The Boys?
Yeah. Well, not the full series. I'm making my way through it.
I'm surprised.
She likes The Boys like 200 times more than I do. And
I'm not really a big fan of the comic, but good for you.
That's because you guys like superheroes, I'm assuming. But anyway, we're not here to talk about The Boys.
No. I mean, in a way we are, because like I think a lot of the reason you like this and I like this is because it's basically Indiana Jones if he was a science robot.
Sort of. Indiana Jones was an anthropologist. Atomic Robo is a little bit more of a STEM guy.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
The hard science.
Whereas
it is very pulpy.
Yeah, and like just kind of can drop him into whatever adventure you want. Like you can literally just say like "and other strangeness" at the end of the title. It's like, oh, okay, that's going to be an Atomic Robo story.
It's like a Flash Gordon kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. But Pat, this is your first.
I believe so. I want to say I probably read some being around you two for so long. I probably have.
I don't know.
Do you secret yours away? Access to
it's never lying out on the coffee table. It's on a bookshelf.
I mean, it's like one of those things where because we've moved around so much and because my comic collection has been interspersed between different places in my parents' house and blah, 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 like it's possible I didn't ever have it when we were living together.
Oh, well then.
Theoretically.
I mean, it felt familiar, but yeah, I think, definitely these 4 stories are new to me.
How did you feel about them?
I felt good about them. For asking.
Yeah, and like it was actually a conscious decision to not start with the first Atomic Robo, which is more of an introduction to the character, because this one just kind of it feels more like it contains more of the essence of what the comic's really about.
Sure, gets all that character setup out of the way.
I mean, I think the first volume is actually really similar in that it's a bunch of short stories also that are somewhat interconnected, but I think this one
Much more
is better
interconnected.
because they've had 3 volumes to work out the kinks by then. Like the first issue of Atomic Robo is actually kind of generic.
Well, this one has Dr. Dinosaur, which is the other main reason I picked this one because he's awesome.
He's pretty great. Him and his crystals.
Or what's his real name? Hisk.
So yeah, Pat, I gave you an ultimatum over text message, and I told you that if you don't fall in love with Dr. Dinosaur, we have to end the podcast. So do we have to end the podcast?
I was under duress, but I did eventually fall in love with him, so we're fine.
Oh, thank goodness. We can keep doing podcasts. Yeah, so I guess which story was your guys' favorite?
So just to be clear here, there's 4 stories all set in the same week. The vampire's job interview, the Power Rangers story that aren't really the Power Rangers, Dr. Dinosaur, and Edison's ghost. And for me, I would choose the Dr. Dinosaur one.
Yeah, I would also say Dr. Dinosaur because it feels like the more complete story of the 4.
Which is kind of funny, given that half of it was a free comic book day story, and the other half was made up for this, like to make it into an issue of comics that people would buy.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah. So like I don't think the first page of that story is actually in the free comic book day one. Kat, you can correct me if you call BS.
I don't really.
It just
I mean, again, it
opened-
was 11 years ago, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it just opens with him on the island, just like yelling at Dr. Dinosaur. It doesn't give you the context of like, oh, he's going to the island for a mission, which I think is actually kind of cool that they're willing to just drop you in it like that in the original one. I think the framing page is to set it within this week that this miniseries takes place within. But yeah, and then I think basically until the explosion is the free comic book day, and then everything after that, where like he and or Atomic Robo and Dr. Dinosaur in the lab together, is added on to make this into an issue of comics for the miniseries here.
Yep, just the beach scene.
Oh, really? That's pretty short.
Yeah, but it was good. Like it got us to buy. I'm looking down over here at the bookshelf. 12 volumes of Atomic Robo, so it did its job.
Nice. What about you, Matt? What was your favorite?
See, I really want to be a hipster and say it's the Power Rangers one for nostalgia reasons, but it probably is. It's just still the Dr. Dinosaur one.
Are hipsters into Power Rangers?
Well, I just want to not choose the obvious option. I think the Dr. Dinosaur one is so charming that it's easy to fall in love with it, and like it makes sense that it's all of our favorites.
I've got to say, it was kind of close for me though. I really like the vampire's job interview. Like, God, I would love a job interview like that. How exciting!
That interdimensional vampires attack in the middle of?
Yeah, where the obviously more qualified candidate is eaten by vampires within like 4 minutes
Good
of
news, you got
interviewing.
the job. Bad news, you might not want the job.
What do they call it? Action science? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah,
Action geology.
Yes.
which is cool. I guess do we want to walk through the stories in the order they're in the volume, or do we want to walk through them in order
Let's
from
do it.
order from the volume? Okay.
Well,
so
we were already just talking about the vampire one, so we may as well give it a go from there.
Vampires.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed the bit in that one near the beginning where Robo's secretary like suits up in the army helmet and like just like grabs a gun from under his desk and is like,
He's ready
this
to
is
go.
just another Tuesday to him.
And I think Bernard is a character that was introduced in a previous volume, so this is kind of a flashback if you start from the beginning. Because like by the time you see Bernard in the present day, this is set in the 90s. He's kind of bald and he's been there a while and nothing really phases him anymore. Well, I guess he's still sort of a nervous fellow, but
Yeah, but like Bernard is probably between him and Jenkins, he and Jenkins are the characters that recur the most often as Tesla 9 staff for sure. I'm pretty sure Bernard is in volume 1 in at least one of those stories, though I would have to double check that.
So is Atomic Robo a creation of Tesla?
Yes, sir. Oh yeah, I guess let's answer that question. How did you find just like jumping into this without actually getting any of the backstory? Was it easy? I mean, you still enjoyed it sounds like, so there's at least that.
I did, but me being me, I was missing the backstory. Especially when I got to Edison's ghost.
So that
there's
actually,
a
like,
history here.
we actually don't have the background on that as readers either. Like when you read this volume right when it came out.
You do. You just need to read a history book.
Yeah, you know
Well,
that
sure.
Edison and Tesla had a rivalry.
Yeah, but then, like, spoilers, the actual next volume of the story is set in what, 38 or something?
Oh, it flashed it back.
Yeah, and that the miniseries is like kind of Atomic Robo's origin story in a way, like not him being built, but like him becoming an action adventure hero, sort of.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool.
But yeah, that one's interesting because, like, as readers, outside of the Tesla Edison fight that everyone kind of knows about at this point, we don't really have the backstory for how he becomes a flaming skull ghost either until later on.
I mean, how much do you really need? Sometimes it's just like, oh, this is happening.
True.
Yeah, so Robo is a creation of Tesla. No one really knows how he works or how he was built. And
Well, it's atomic, I would assume.
I mean, that's an assumption.
Well, I feel like a safe one.
Well, we all contain atoms.
This is true.
Well, actually, woman's splaining.
Yeah, so he like gains control of Tesla's inventions and company after Tesla dies, essentially, and goes on to kind of be the CEO of Tesladyne in perpetuity.
Cool.
And that's most of his deal. He also like works for the military sometimes until he gets fed up with them. Yeah, I think Bernard and Jenkins recur the most often throughout the series. And it is really cool to see Jenkins go from this guy who's really frazzled on his first day to
You're not talking about Jenkins, sir. You're talking about Bernard.
You're right. Oh, I don't know. I think I might
Jenkins doesn't get frazzled.
No, Jenkins does not get frazzled. What did you think about Jenkins, Pat?
I enjoyed him. I mean, it seems similar to like the Butler character that's like ready for anything, kind of, which I appreciate.
So he's Alfred, but for Atomic Robo.
Basically, yeah.
Sort of. I get that comparison, but at the same time, I don't think Alfred's out there ripping up vampires.
I mean, give him the chance. I'm sure Pennyworth would show a thing or two.
So it's actually not in this issue, but I believe the backstory with Jenkins is Atomic Robo rescued him from the vampire dimension.
Oh, so that's why he's so brutal. I understand.
That's why he's good at killing vampires.
Kat, I know you appreciated that, like, the people in these stories look like real people, what made me think of that is I was thinking of the scene where Jenkins is just like going down the hallway, sort of like rescuing people in chains of like people who got left behind and got left behind and left behind. And I think her name is Miller. Like, what always stands out to me is like she has a really big nose, and like that's endearing. I don't know, and I enjoy that in these comics. Like, people are mostly fit still because like they're action scientists, right? But like they also get to look like real people, which is nice.
Sure.
Like all the Power Rangers have different builds, which is cool.
Yeah, one of the things I do when I'm reading a comic is see, because I feel like with a lot of the superhero comics in particularly, it's they're basically just a different color and hairstyle on the same cookie cutter perfect face and body. And when the art looks like that, I can't take the story seriously. So it's nice when people actually look different and the effort is put into making them all unique characters. And also when the female characters are not over-sexualized. They're not wearing skimpy outfits. Their hair is actually pulled back when they're doing action scenes. It's it's the little things.
Unlike Miller's nose, am I right? Oh. So yeah, they're invaded by vampires.
Mm-hmm.
Jenkins slaughters most of them, and then
Crystals save the day.
I think it's
true.
Diamond.
That's a crystal.
Is it?
I don't know. I'm not a geologist, as I've said many times.
Are diamonds crystals? He typed.
I don't think so.
A solid form of the element carbon with its atoms arranged in a crystal structure. So, point Cat, I think.
But don't crystals grow? And diamonds are made
grow.
of whatever. I'm not a geologist.
Me neither. I really enjoy. Well, first, I enjoy the moment in that story where Robo tells Bernard to count to 10 and then run in with his gun. And
Oh yeah.
Jenkins has already cleared the room, and Bernard runs in, and Robo just shoves the gun up, and it goes through like whoever's on the next floor with that hanging there
Still
poster.
somehow at his desk in the middle
Well, it's
of all
probably
this.
not someone who works at Tesladyne. It's probably someone on one of the other floors who works for someone completely different.
Oh.
Because Robo's always talking about how they annoy their neighbors.
Oh yeah, later on his neighbor is what's that car company where they just shot something into space?
Oh, Tesla?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
Pat, there's a later volume where like basically Robo moves in next to Richard Branson for like Virgin Space and Elon Musk in the middle of some desert, essentially. And they end up having a neighborhood association where they like tell Robo that he can't finish his construction. And he's like, there are only 2 other people in this neighborhood association. Why are you doing this to me?
Nice.
So circling back, I suppose the second one with the Power Rangers was a lot of pop culture references that didn't make as much sense to me. So it was not my favorite, but it was still good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
You enjoyed it.
Yeah,
You
I don't know.
enjoyed it.
What do you want from me?
I'm a Power Rangers mark though, so
That one wasn't my favorite.
that's fair. I think it only works if you have nostalgia for some of those things, like, and especially Power Rangers things.
I
And I
wouldn't
don't.
say
You're not a
only.
big Power. Well, I mean, like it works more, I guess.
Yeah.
Pat, are you secretly a Power Rangers guy too? And I don't know.
I mean, as much as anyone growing up in the '90s is a Power Rangers guy.
Okay, all right. So no then. You guys had to laugh at the scene where it spits out the Red Ranger's helmet, though, right? And hits Robo with it.
That was
The
a
Shinkabees?
fantastic use of perspective on the point of the artist, because it really does look like he's been decapitated, but then he isn't.
Yeah, it got a little darker than Atomic Robo normally gets there for a second.
I mean, I appreciate it. It's not just Power Ranger references. There's definitely like Ghost in the Shell and other mecha anime references in there.
Oh yeah, there's some Gundam stuff to the point where I was kind of upset that the robot at the end isn't an actual Megazord, but like if you're gonna work more references in, it can't really be a Megazord, so that sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
It's more like a Gundam or a Metal Gear sort of deal.
Metal Gear.
Metal Gear Solid has Zorgs in it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the Metal Gear is.
I thought it was about Snake.
Snake.
It's about Snake trying to stop the Metal Gear.
Snake.
Oh, that's solid. I like the way that they did a flashback in this too. It was instead of doing, I guess they usually do a different color border of the panels, but this one they did stippling to make it kind of look like an old timey comic, and that was a nice touch.
Oh yeah, when the Doctor flashes back when he was.
Yeah, it's only 3 panels, so it's easy to miss, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I like how that kind of builds out this whole separate sector of the universe too, where there have been Power Rangers in Japan since like the 80s in the Atomic Robo universe, which is pretty sweet.
That in this universe too, really. They're just not real.
Yeah, actually, because I mean, the Power Rangers we got in the 90s are actually like the 16th season of Power Rangers from Japan. So that might even be the correct year for being like the first year of Power Rangers. I would have to look that up though.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I would not be surprised either.
A nice touch. Again, it's the little things. And this is probably the only Atomic Robo comic where the female character is a little bit overtly sexualized. But I think it kind of works because it's a reference to like, oh yeah, the Pink Ranger has lips on her helmet and she has to wear pink.
Yeah, I don't think you can give them like I don't think you could point the finger at them for the Pink Ranger.
No, I'm not. I'm just like this is the one exception, but there's a reason because the Power Rangers are so like that.
The other thing I really love about the Power Rangers one is that Robo's just like running around Japan fighting a beast while he's wearing like a pink polo shirt.
He's just there for a visit.
some adventure like completely unprepared to the point where he's throwing copiers out of skyscrapers while wearing slacks and a polo.
One moment, I gotta throw a copy here.
And never does learn Japanese. He doesn't do anything, or he doesn't do everything.
Yeah, which is cool too, right? Because like as a protagonist, he could be very easily like super
As an
overpowered.
American protagonist, I identify with that.
Like he could be super overpowered, right? And like it could be tough to relate to him. And I never have that problem in any of the volumes, and especially not in this one, like relating to this immortal robot who knows far more science than I do. Because I think his personality is super endearing, and I think that's secretly the most important part of Atomic Robo. Actually, is the fact that Robo's super fun.
Sure, I can see that. I'm scouring this to make sure I didn't miss any like Evangelion reference, but I'm not seeing any yet.
I was wondering what you were doing. I could hear clicking.
Who's that? Evangelion?
Evangelion's a mech anime.
Oh.
It's weird.
Undoubtedly.
I've never seen that one actually.
Really? It's like one
Yeah.
of the classic ones that everyone's like, "Oh, you have to watch it if you're an
I
anime
feel like
fan."
I started it once and it was really slow and I turned it off, which
It
is
is
what happens to
slow.
me with a lot of things that people say are classics. Like Blade Runner, I started it and 3 minutes later I turned it off.
What? But the visuals. That's
I
fine.
don't know, man.
The newer Blade Runner is better. You should watch that one.
Can I watch it without having watched
Yes.
other Blade Runner? Okay.
Sure. I mean, it's not. Some of the beats won't hit as hard, but that's okay. It's really good though. 2049. Do it.
All right. So have we arrived at the best story in the volume?
I do believe we were there.
So, Kat, you kind of already talked about how the first half of the Dr. Dinosaur story hooked you and what excited you about that. Do you feel like the additional pages captured that same magic?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a good self-contained story.
Dr. Dinosaur and his crystals.
Yeah, I guess, Pat, as a person who read it for the first time as one complete story, do you feel like it hung together as a complete story? Like there wasn't a joint to you in the middle of it?
No, I mean, the separation makes sense. He got blown up. He got knocked out. He wakes up in the lair of Dr. Dinosaur.
I think you're looking at it backwards, Matt, because you experienced it differently, but I'm pretty sure it was written as one cohesive story, and then they figured out how to pick it apart into
I
Free
don't think
Comic
it
Book
was,
Day
actually.
later. Really?
If you read the introduction to this volume, they talk about how they had the Free Comic Book story already published, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we could add on to that to get it into the miniseries."
Oh, well, I didn't read that because there's no pictures, but maybe I will.
You could do it
Oh
right
yeah,
now.
I see it now. You're right.
Yeah, the introduction for this volume is actually kind of cool because they talk about like Scott Wegener talks about how basically they were gonna take a volume off and just do some like fun one-off stories, and then he got into like having to draw entire vampire invasions and giant kaiju and a velociraptor that's really hard to draw actually. And then in the writer's page in the introduction, which follows, and he's already read the artist's page, he says like, "Yeah, those were all your ideas, man." So that was kind of cute and fun. But like you could tell whenever these guys write introductions for these volumes that they have a ton of fun making this comic and that they really like making this thing that they own and that people can interact with in the way that Kat prefers to interact with comics, where you can kind of pop in and out and they're fun stories and you don't really have to follow along or get wrapped up in mega soap opera nonsense.
Now, Kat, you're a big fan of Saga, though, right?
See, I think, Matt, that you're misconstruing. I enjoy that short one-offs exist, and I wish there were more of them because that would make me more likely to invest in owning a copy myself if each one of these is $20. But I also like some of the longer running series like The Boys and Saga and Hitman. Oh, so there's a difference between things that have a long run but they have a plot arc and things that are just kind of going on 50, 60 years recycling similar plot points and just kind of, I don't want to be disparaging or anything, but like I like things that have an arc in the story that has a clear ending. I don't like it when things just kind of go on and on and on.
Sure.
I mean, I told you how I felt about having just read Batman 100 this week, and I felt kind of the same way that I think you feel about superhero comics in general, where that story was like another Batman versus Joker, this time everything's going to change story. And even by the end of that story, nothing had changed. So I definitely get what you're saying.
Well, I mean, yeah, the superhero comics, it tends to be like all the females are a little over sexualized and it gets kind of annoying. And then again, same cookie cutter, perfect face and body. So those are two things that get in the way.
God, I think what like part of what made me fall in love with the series was just like the page-long explanation of how if you traveled 1 second in time, you'd basically be off of the planet Earth, like choking in space.
I have thought of that before.
There's a reason the TARDIS moves in time and space.
Gots to. You gots to.
But like that's what sold me on this comic being smart and well constructed. Like,
Well, I was just gonna say it's really hard to animate. It's hard to animate, not animate in terms of, turn into video, but animate in terms of facial expression. The faces of animals, especially reptiles, which don't tend to have much facial expressions. So
They don't have lips. It's tough.
he's so great at being deranged looking.
those wacky eyes, like his eyes and then Robo's eyes, and especially this story, but all the stories, like you get so much emotion out of Robo's dumb metal eyelids.
That's
Like,
right, because Robo doesn't really have a face either.
no, but like you know exactly how, like what he's feeling every single panel between either his body language or his eyes.
Yeah, kudos for not having a mouth or nose. Well, you don't really need a nose to have facial expressions, but at least the mouth and the eyebrows, those are usually pretty key, and Robo does do a great job without those two.
You will
Well,
believe that a robot
I
can
guess
be
it's not
annoying.
Robo, it's Scott Wegener.
Wegener. We're gonna go with Wegener just for now.
Yeah.
If we messed it up, I apologize.
Sorry, I'm just reading Dr. Dinosaur lines now.
Dude, I was reading them, so I read it once earlier this month, I think. Once a day ago, and then I read it again today quick before we started because I wanted to do it. And I just like I didn't get through the Atomic Robo one before or the Dr. Dinosaur one before we started because I just got stuck laughing at all the good gags in the Dr. Dinosaur one.
Basically everything he says could be a bumper sticker. Come here and capture me with your disgusting forepaws.
Can we pick our favorite Dr. Dinosaur lines? Because I think I have one actually.
I don't know one offhand.
Well, you've got the book in front of you, so you can even just quick look.
Hmm.
Mine, I think, is pray that I do not demonstrate my mastery over the flow.
Oh, with the ebb and flow.
Yeah, the ebb and flow thing. So good. It's either like my favorite gags, I think, are either between that or when he turns the blue light on and off with his tail.
It's ambiance.
It's just there for show. Because he's
Actually,
such a crazy dinosaur.
I quite like that he's always calling people mammals as a derogative. I actually accidentally did that at work last week.
To who?
Oh, I was on a Zoom call and I was like, oh, they don't, because it was about, science stuff. And I was like, oh, people never appreciate what they can't see, typical mammals. And I was like, oh no.
Pat, what's your opinion on whether the crystals actually do anything or not?
Oh, they obviously do.
Okay.
I'm not going to question the genius of Dr. Dinosaur.
Fair take.
Insane with genius. But first, I'm going to take you apart piece by piece and mail your head to an important governmental body. How? With science! That is for me to know and for you to die.
And apparently, the last panel of that story is a Wolverine reference.
Oh, with the multi-tool that he's holding on to? With spatulas
Which
and
I
stuff?
just sort of suspected, yeah, based on the spatulas, but not confirmed.
I was gonna say I can explain that one. It's a story where the X-Men have like just fought the Hellfire Club for the first time, and the way they got rid of Wolverine in that is what's his name? Is it it's Harry Leland, I think. Anyways, his power is just to like be able to control things mass. So he makes Wolverine super heavy, and Wolverine falls like into the sewer essentially. And the end of that comic is Wolverine like in the sewer going like, now it's my turn.
Now it's my turn.
And the entire next issue is just like Wolverine tearing his way back up the building in like Die Hard style.
But yeah, I do appreciate that they have those kind of references for the people in the know.
Yeah, and I also I appreciate that you can read the comic and not have to care about them too, because that's a fine line to walk. Like you can read the Power Rangers one, and if your Power Rangers nostalgia is not super strong, like it's still fun and exciting. And if you read this one and you don't get the Wolverine panel, like it's still a cool way to end a comic, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the next one is the Edison's Ghost. Correct? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I was just remembering my favorite bit about that one is the corporeal incorporeal test where they throwing a
piece of paper through it.
It specifically reminds me of some of the times where I've seen Kat go out in the field with just like Tupperware jars and bottles of dish soap to go do science. So I thought that one especially maybe played in her wheelhouse as they're performing all these like kind of antics scientific experiments.
Hey man,
Not all
science doesn't
glamour.
always take fancy
Science has
instruments.
a lot of milk bottles, like milk gallons.
Science has a budget if you don't work for the Department of Defense or something. Even they have a budget, I'm sure.
So I wanted to ask you, Kat, what is the either weirdest or most hodgepodge MacGyvered science experiment or field work you've done? Because I'm not sure I know.
I don't know. I mean, that's something I'd probably have to think on longer. I guess off the top of my head, we were doing some stuff in Cambodia where we were supposed to be looking at all the jungle animals, but the only thing we were catching was rats. So we had to just keep taking these rats and their cages that we caught every night and then putting them in Ziploc bags and weighing them and then releasing them. It was, I don't know if that really served a purpose for science. But
what did you do with the rat weight data?
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't in charge of that project, but I was like, all right, we're weighing rats. That's what we're going to do today.
Yeah, that's about on the level of tossing a piece of paper through a ghost.
Ziploc bag was just to keep them
the gallon size.
The instruments or what?
Well, no, you just you put them in the Ziploc bag. You don't seal it, but then it keeps them from biting you because rodent bites they have a lot of pounds per square inch in those 4 teeth. So it's quite a bite if they get you.
Sure.
Yeah, so you put them in the Ziploc bag and then you can handle them by touching the bag instead of trying to keep their little paws, I don't know, okay? It was just a thing that happened.
No, can I tell you, I'm not disappointed in this answer. I'm very happy about it, actually.
I'll take note of it. I'll stock up on Ziploc bags.
I know what you're getting for Christmas.
Oh, no.
Gotta catch the rats first.
With or without the rat, yeah.
Okay, can I just say I'm not condoning putting rats in Ziploc bags because I feel like 9 out of 10 people are going to seal the bag, and that's not what you want to do because then you have a dead rat in a Ziploc bag 5 minutes later, and that's sad and it's gross. And again, is it serving a purpose for science? No. There's better things to get for Christmas, I think, like candy canes or something. Yep.
Noted. Pat, what were you saying before I cut you off?
Oh, no, I was just going to point out I appreciated all the Ghostbuster references in this issue.
Yeah, the uniforms were pretty good.
Yeah.
Wait, there's Ghostbuster reference? Oh, my God.
This is why we do the podcast, so we can discover things.
Also, the head device that what's-his-name is wearing in the beginning is very Egon-esque.
Poor Bernard. Hasn't even been there a week. They're already saying they're going to do brain surgery on him.
Well, he's seeing ghosts, man. You gotta crack down.
I don't think anyone in this volume says that it's a ghost, actually.
No one?
Atomic Robo walks in. What the hell is that? Oh, that's our ghost. He's new. Yeah, he's a ghost. Oh, and look, Robo's last name is Tesla on his
Badge.
Ghostbusters ripoff.
Yeah.
Oh,
his full name is Dr. Atomic Robo Tesla.
I know.
That's a weird robot in the background too. I'm just noticing this thing. Like the death robot that's in the
Yeah,
back.
he's a little creepy, huh?
What's going on with that?
I don't think I've ever seen that thing again.
What do you have in the conference room? I don't know. Death robot.
Death robot. It's all good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of like how this one seems like it's also just going to be sort of like a monster of the week sort of thing, and then you realize that it actually means a lot more than that to Robo by the end of it. I think this comic overall does a really good job of building a big world that's interconnected without asking you to have to follow it too much. Although in the later volumes, it gets to be, I don't know, a little bit of a, like it asks you to track the continuity a little bit more.
You need to know your Robo lore.
Yeah, a little bit actually, to the point where the later volumes I kind of thought were not, or like were not as good as the earlier volumes, and I think part of what happened is it just was using callbacks to things that I hadn't read for like 8 years.
Oh,
So I don't know. I'm more up on the later volumes since I did a big reread this summer, because turns out I've got a lot of time on my hands to read things sometimes.
makes sense.
What with the whole lockdown.
You don't have to explain that part, Matt. You inferred it.
For history, someone might listen to this years from now and not even remember.
People would want to think you're a shut-in.
No, of course not. I went on a bike ride today, Pat.
And he had carbs. So don't you go making assumptions, listener.
I talked to probably 3 other people outside this household.
Oh my God. That's insane. But yeah, there's like history with Tesla and Robo.
Yeah, and like it's such a great character design too.
Oh, Edison? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, is he like a lich or something? I got lich vibes.
You know what I'm kind of like quote unquote mad about after having read this one and having reread like all the other volumes? We haven't actually seen Edison like in the present again. We see him in the past, like before this happens to him, but like we haven't seen Ghost Edison again, as far as I know, unless he's appeared in like some of the side
Really?
stories.
No way, he hasn't come back?
I think he has.
I don't think he has. You see him in the past where like he gets into this situation that results in this, but I don't think you've seen him again in the present.
But the foreshadowing.
I know. I'm kind of upset about it now.
There's a bunch of skulls and a line at the bottom. Oh. All his windows are green.
Like the energy Edison's messing with shows up later again, but it's not him that's using it.
Huh.
So, yeah, Undead Edison still waiting out there.
Yeah, I mean, as my first introduction to this, it has intrigued me. It is like, on average, I prefer things that are more cohesive. Unlike Kat, who likes her standalones. I do like that on occasion. But things like this, where like they're hinting at a darker background between Edison and Robo, and like promising something in the future, like that's more intriguing to me than to see like what wacky hijinks is Robo going to be up to next week, kind of thing.
Yeah, you're very much like a involved through line stories guy than like
I like my lore.
a
Yeah.
gag of the week guy. Yeah.
But I can definitely see the draw into like, oh, let's see what zany science adventure Robo's up to. I can
And
see
like
that.
I said, it kind of does get more complex and like it gets more interwoven as it goes too. So I think you would kind of fall into that. There's actually, did your collection, Pat, come with like the B stories in the back?
No, it stops after Edison.
Yeah, they're of slightly lower quality than the main stories, I would say, but
Hence the B.
They never proclaimed to be of the same quality. They're B stories.
this is fair. They're still good though, and they also flesh out some of those connections between stories. Like one of the B stories is basically the moment before Robo's going into the vampire dimension to rescue Jenkins.
Nice. Now, you said that originally this wasn't a free webcomic. Do you know what heralded their freeness?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. I know, so like they switched print publishers around volume 9, I think it looks like here. Like they were published by Red 5 Comics, and then they like formed their own, I think, company called Tesladyne, which is where they're publishing the web comics through and stuff. And there's like an RPG, and I think there might even be a board game.
Really?
Like I think they just realized they could make more money taking ownership of it themselves, and then they're still putting print collections out via IDW.
They've got a Patreon too. Nice.
Yeah, so they're doing that also. I think they just kind of wanted to change it up, and because this comic is theirs and they own it and it's always been their experimental thing, they could. So
No, I appreciate them offering it free to whoever wants it. It certainly widens your audience a great deal. Man, remember comic book stores?
I just went in a comic book store the other day.
Nice.
Very quickly, but I did not go in a game store today because I was like, I'm not going to buy anything because we don't have a backpack to bike it back with. So
all my board games have so much dust on them. I've got to air out that room. I feel like a widower who's like locked away the bedroom. Just no, don't. I haven't touched anything since they've died.
I'm over here slowly selling magic cards, man. I get you.
Everything is as it was. Don't go in there. It's like the rotting corpse of my lovers in there. Don't do it. So yeah, Kat, good choice. Atomic Robo.
Okay.
Would you have any suggestions if I wanted to read something similar, but not potentially this?
I actually had one more question if we want to do that.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So, well, I guess, so Pat, you said you would read more of it.
Yeah. I mean, especially because it's free online, I don't really have an excuse not to. So.
This is true. Although that doesn't stop me from having an excuse ever. So in that vein, I wanted to ask you, Kat, is this your favorite volume of Atomic Robo as far as you know?
I don't know, honestly. It's been rather a long time since I read them. Since, like I said, this was 2009 when they first started. So,
were you tempted to reread them?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd say I probably have like a favorite 3 maybe, and this is probably one of them.
The Dr. Dinosaur?
3 of these trades. I mean,
gotcha.
This is probably one of them. The one that we read, which is volume 4.
Yeah.
So I guess volumes rather than trades for continuity's sake.
Yeah, I think this is probably in my top 3 also, because I was thinking about it. I really like volume 3, which is
Carl Sagan?
Yeah, it's got Carl Sagan in it.
Yeah, that's one of mine as well.
It also has to deal with time travel. It has like a Cthulhu monster in it. And it's got a really neat moment at the end that I don't want to spoil, I guess, for you, Pat. But like volume 3 is my favorite for a very specific reason. So that one I would recommend if you were going to
so 3 above this one?
Yeah, I like 3 more than this one, but I think that might just be the time travel nerd in me. I don't know.
Sure.
I'm trying to think what rounds out my top 3. I think there's one later called The Ghost of Station X, which I really like also. That's probably my top 3 Atomic Robo volumes. Although I haven't read the more recent ones as many times as I've read some of the earlier ones. So
yeah, how many volumes total are there?
I think 13 now, because I think there's one that we don't have. And we have 12 of them. So there's a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of where continuity just started to develop itself later on, and like it just kind of happened because as these sorts of things go on, that just happens.
Yeah, it's hard not to at that point.
Ultimate Spider-Man was launched as like continuity-free Spider-Man, and by the end of that, if you hadn't read the first bits of it, you had no idea what was going on. But yeah, Kat, do you have any other recommendations for a Patrick who liked Atomic Robo?
Darn it, I forgot the name of it again. What's that one that I keep wanting to call Doom Patrol but isn't?
It's Doom Patrol.
No, that one-off. I mean, Doom Patrol is another good one that you might want to check out. I don't know if it's quite along the line of this. I guess it's kooky and zany. So
Next Wave is what you're thinking of, right?
Yes,
Oh, right.
Next Wave. Next Wave is it's a one-off one that I thought was pretty fun.
It is
An action adventure. I suppose you've already read it, huh?
I have, but I mean, I agree that it has the same type of feel.
Yeah, I liked that.
Pat, what would you recommend to people who are looking for?
I think, yeah, like Kat was saying, Next Wave hits the same type of itch, though there were some problems with it. But otherwise,
Yeah.
I was thinking it's much darker and I guess quote unquote mature. The Manhattan Projects.
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting one, actually.
I sort of got the same feel, like the wacky science and like weird historical figures popping up.
Less dead Einsteins in this one. Is the Einstein die in that?
Oh,
I think it's been a
geez.
while. I've read the first like 3 or 4 volumes. It's been a while. But yeah, it's got a similar feel to it, but it's weird science/history stuff.
You guys are recommending like relatively adult stuff, and I'm just out here like repping for Squirrel Girl. This is like
I mean, honestly, we need someone to do the other side, so
this is a perfect like if you like this, you'll like Squirrel Girl comic to me. Of like Squirrel Girl
yeah.
has the same cleverness. It's got the same sort of like interest in science. It's got the same fun times protagonist.
I think, yeah, now that I think about it, I think Footnotes would probably make me like this more.
Footnotes would be great in this. I'm sure they'd be really good, given how clever the comic itself is.
One thing I didn't do is if you hover over a page, do they do like comments?
No, I'm not
No,
seeing
they
any
don't.
right now. I'm just seeing the page title, basically.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Squirrel Girl's a good call.
All right, well, cool. I think that's going to do it for this month's discussion of Atomic Robo. As always, if you want to get in touch with Pat or myself, you can find us on Twitter as @WattPodcast. You can also email us at waitingonthetrade@gmail.com and read more comics-related goodness at mattreadscomics.com. Kat, this is where I ask you where people can find you online. What are you going to decide this time?
Oh, well, maybe next time I'll be online. I'm kind of a troglodyte.
Would you be remiss if I send people to some of the stuff you've either written or drawn on Matt Reads Comics?
Oh, you could do that, sure.
Because I think you've put up some
That's
pretty cool
about the
stuff
only
there.
place on the internet where it still exists. For now.
For now, plans to be arranged.
I guess one last quick comment. Do you know anything about Arise Skeleton King?
Oh, yes. I was actually going to mention that and I forgot. Good call.
Yeah.
That is a Kickstarter thing that Brian Clevinger and some other people, including I think Lee Black, who edited this book, are doing, where they're like, it's kind of a manga-esque D&D style
It
thing.
looks very D&D to me, yeah.
Yeah, so like it's lettered by the same person who does the lettering for Adventure Zone, and it looks cool. Like
It looks very cute.
I considered backing it. I haven't yet. I might. I think there's only like
there's 12 days to go as of
yeah.
right.
So by the time this is up, it'll already have either been funded or not. But I'm
Well,
pretty sure it's already hit its goal. So a print or PDF.
Oh, it did. Yes, we're okay.
Show up.
Yeah, it looks very cute.
For those of us who missed the boat, but yeah, it looks fun.
Yeah, Kat, thank you for the suggestion and thank you for coming back on.
You're welcome. Good to be here.
Good.
Out here in internet land.
You don't venture there very often anymore. I feel very special that you've graced us.